I'd also like to introduce the other members of the committee who are here today. Tom Maurer from Preston, who is Preston's representative and our host tonight. Wayne Frazier, who represents the Southeastern Council of Governments. Shane Mallory from the Department of Public Works. Mark Ryan, the Secretary of OPM. Undersecretary John Mangachi. Chet Camerata from the Department of Economic and Community Development. And Dr. Tony Alessi, who represents the City of Norwich. The Office of Policy and Management scheduled tonight's hearing in order to give members of the public an opportunity to comment on the factors which the committee and ultimately the Secretary should take into consideration in making a decision concerning a developer for the Norwich Hospital property, including the quality of life issues, negative and positive impacts from the development, traffic and transportation, possible pollution, potential uses for the land, economic development, jobs and local taxes, infrastructure changes that may be necessary, and preservation of the region's quality of life. Questions will not be taken during tonight's hearing, nor will comments be entertained regarding specific proposals. However, at least one more public hearing will be held after the July 26th submission date so that the public will have an opportunity to comment on specific proposals. Let me take a moment now to go over the rules for tonight's hearing. Speakers will be recognized for 3 minutes. There are sign-up sheets that are available over to my left. One is for the general public, and one is for elected local and state officials. And recognizing speakers, we'll alternate between the two lists. As I said, speakers will be recognized for 3 minutes and must limit their comments to that time. There's a timekeeper located at the end of the table who will have a sign indicating when you have 1 minute left and when your time is expired. With that, I'd like to recognize Sharon Palmer as the first speaker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sharon Palmer. I am in my 6th term as an elected representative from the town of Waterford. I'm a lifelong resident of Connecticut, and I've lived in southeastern Connecticut for a little over 30 years. And welcome to southeastern Connecticut. And might I say, this here tonight is the face of southeastern Connecticut. This region has become a worldwide tourist destination, like it or not. I live here. I'm not too happy with the traffic. I'm not too happy with some of the other things, but the reality is, this is a worldwide tourist destination. Yeah. The question before you tonight should be how to capitalize on that in terms of smart growth and development. Proposals should be in synergy with the Mohegan Sun. It's right across the river. Should be high density, high volume use, and maximize that proximity to the Mohegan Sun and the other casino. There are 3 concepts that I believe fit and are intriguing to me. One is a hotel and conference center. That's in both of the proposals you've had put in so far. The idea of a family entertainment center would diversify what we have here in southeastern Connecticut. I, in my union work, represent members from higher education. And the idea of an arts college intrigues me. We have the Eugene O'Neill Theater here. We have 2 fledgling theaters in Norwich. I've spoken with the heads of several of our unions, those being the Voc Tech Teachers Union, the personnel that we represent at UConn, the UConn Health Center, and the 2-year technical colleges. They all believe the idea of an arts college, which also has technical and engineering courses, would be a good feeder system for them to use. So let me say lastly that I am a very proud member of the organized labor community. I serve as a vice president of the Connecticut State AFL-CIO, have for a long time been involved with it, currently vice president of the Southeast Labor Council, and my day job is as president of AFT Connecticut. Let me say that we need good jobs here. I've lived here a long time. I've seen EB go from 12,000 workers to 4,000 workers. And most of those folks went to work at the casinos at half price. We need jobs with good pay, good benefits, and good working conditions. Now, I'm told that I can't mention Utopia here tonight, and I haven't. But a project like that would be very good for southeastern Connecticut. Thank you.
Ed Riley, followed by Chuck Appleby. Ladies and gentlemen.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm president of New London Norwich Building Construction Trades Council, in which capacity I have the privilege of representing the men and women in this room today. And in regards to the Norwich Hospital grounds, I certainly want to see those grounds developed. I want to see the construction 100% union. And upon the completion, I want to see it staffed and run 100% union. For too long, the labor movement has been pushed aside in our own community. And I can assure everyone here tonight, no longer will we be pushed around, no longer will we be pushed aside. The labor movement is vibrant, active, and strong. We're here to stand together as brothers and sisters. We need the committee to keep in mind that we need the jobs that can be created, the apprenticeship opportunities that will be created, young men and women who go into the apprentice opportunities and have a lifelong career. People will enjoy pensions, medical coverage, good, decent working conditions. There is only one way I know of economic justice, and it is the union movement. And we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity with a development proposal here, and we all know what proposal that is. We have an opportunity to have it all done union to take care of all these men and women. If I were to ask the men and women here tonight what you want to see, what you want to happen, your residents of the community, what do you want?
Please direct your remarks to the committee.
What's that, sir? I couldn't hear you, sir.
Please direct your remarks to the committee.
I'll direct my remarks where I see fit. Again, I stand here as a union representative in full support of the Utopia project, 100% union. God bless the union men and women in this room.
Chuck Appleby, followed by Carol Mastamoli, it looks like.
My name is Chuck Appleby. Grew up in New London, now live in Waterford. I've been a resident of southeastern Connecticut for 50 years. 50 years, by the way. I appreciate the committee being here tonight. I have to tell you, though, that we had an issue with the scheduling of this meeting. I've been accused of being paranoid at times, and I'm sure I will get to meet a lot of the committee members in the future. But having a meeting on Holy Week, in my opinion, was a way to keep the support for certain projects or participation down. I thought it was a very bad call to have this meeting on Holy Week. Growing up in New London and working at General Dynamics back in the early 70s, I can remember that the earlier you got to work, the less time you spent in your car because of traffic. Traffic was a big issue. There were 22,000 people working at General Dynamics. There were a large amount of people working at Charles Pfizer at the time. The Dow Chemical plant, the Norwich State Hospital plant had a lot of employees. Traffic has always been an issue in a small region of southeastern Connecticut. Traffic started to be minimized when we lost the jobs. So when I hear people talk about traffic, I understand that no one likes to sit in traffic, but I can tell everyone tonight, the panel, when you drive around the Nutmeg State and the areas where you don't see traffic, you don't see jobs. Traffic. I believe that traffic is part of the success of economic development. We continually talk about economic development. I will tell everyone in this room tonight, I do not believe that economic development has to be stimulated by taxpayers' money. There is a feeling and a belief in this state now that we have to have economic development money, all the people in this room and your taxpayers' money, in order to stimulate growth and raise quality of life. I disagree. I think it's a great vehicle. I think when it's needed and used correctly, but I can tell you right now that if you want to raise the quality of life, that's jobs. Jobs equals money, equals health insurance, equals pension, equals putting your kids through college, equals buying the second car. And I'm hoping that I do make an impact. I'm not here for the rah-rah speech. These people will clap. I represent them. But I really want to make the point to the people on the panel. Do not let some of the messages disguise what they're about. Traffic has been on a lot of people's minds, especially out of Hartford. I spend a lot of time up there. Well, Chuck, you know, it's going to be a lot of traffic. Okay. New York City's traffic. Florida's traffic, Boston's traffic, Chicago's traffic. Vibrant areas with economic growth equal traffic. Well, maybe we should take some of the money and put it into the infrastructure and fix the roads and build a new bridge in Preston. I'd like to make one little point to the people on the panel that maybe, I'm sure some of you are aware of it. I think the majority of you are not aware of it. I'm not here to knock any person or any institution, but I was fortunate enough to be raised as a middle class. Started out lower class when I was a kid. My family became middle class, like most of the people in this room. That is what helped this country. I really believe right now that there is a fear among people that are related to the project, whether in positions in Hartford, whether people that have a lot of juice that can influence people in Hartford, that if a certain developer develops this project and builds it 100% union and employs 100% union employees, you're talking about thousands and thousands of jobs. I really believe there's a fear that that would give a renaissance to the labor movement, and that it also would, in their opinion, put an unfair warrant on some of the institutions that employ thousands of people in this area that aren't union, which means they would have to raise the ante, take less profits. I hope to God that that doesn't influence anyone's decision. I give Mark Ryan credit for showing up here tonight. I know that he figured he was maybe coming into a hostile area. We don't want it to be that way, but we want the people that are speaking to be heard. It's not just big mouth Appleby and big mouth Riley. There's people in this room that feel like they're not being heard. The same people that don't want to go to the ballot box in November because they think their vote doesn't count. The people on this panel can make a positive impact that the political process works. And Mark, again, I don't even know you, but I feel slighted and actually upset and frustrated that there are only 3 people on this panel from Eastern Connecticut. Hartford has never been a great friend of this area of the state that I really wanted to get involved this time. And you know I have to say one thing before I go. I am pro-Utopia. Thank you very much.
Carol Mastamoli, followed by Joe Biber.
Carol Matsumoto. Close. I want to say, first of all, that I'm not in the union. I have been in a union, but I'm not. And I am every bit as much for as they are. I live on Route 2A in the heart of Pocatonic Village. There is no stretch of land since the development of the casinos that has had a higher impact of traffic than that little village. Has the state done anything to help our little village? When Foxwoods opened, they wouldn't even give us a state trooper to go on that road. If we have housing on the state hospital grounds, we will have 400 more cars a day and still no relief. There won't be a cause for it. If we have Utopia Studios, we will have the proper road structure. It will have to be. I also want to say something about this great country that we live in. We are a country of the people, by the people, and for the people, and we are the people! Our elected officials are elected to follow our mandate, not their own hidden agenda, and not to fill their own coffers.
Joe Bieber, followed by Chuck Tisbicki.
Good evening, Secretary Ryan, members of Norwich Hospital Recommendation Committee. Can you hear me? My name is Joseph Bieber. I'm with the town of Preston's Economic Development Commission. Preston's Economic Development Commission has focused on the former Norwich State Hospital since the facility closed and economic development became an option. The 470-acre parcel represents the best prospects for Preston's, Norwich's, and the region's future. Its exceptional location, landform, access, and existing infrastructure with potential for improvement and redundancies makes this property too valuable for routine development, such as housing. While this newly formed advisory council considers development options, we would like to take this opportunity to point out key issues, concerns, and past mistakes that we believe will be useful to you to consider as you move forward. The town widely supports development at this site. 95.67% of respondents to a widely distributed 2000 Economic Development Survey favored economic development on the former Norwich Hospital site. The questionnaire, developed over a year's time in a public process, was mailed to a blind sample of 1,441 residents and businesses in Preston, and it had elicited a 22.76 response rate. Stronger support for the Norwich Hospital location signifies the site's importance in planning the town's economic future and the need to grow the town's grand list. Ranking 15 issues in importance, including quality of life issues, found that the highest concerns were, in descending order, fire and emergency services, education quality, road safety, police protection, real estate tax rate. The quality of life issues did not rank as highly in the report. Careful and thoughtful rezoning of this property in 1997 focused on the extraordinary economic development potential of this site, and residential development as a potential use was decisively rejected. It is EDC's opinion that this position is not going to change in the foreseeable future. It is seen as essential for this property to be a very strong revenue generator, a diverse, high-quality job generator, and to contribute to the region's future economic benefit. The prior advisory panel's work was done almost exclusively in executive session, and the public has been poorly informed as to the nature of those meetings. It was relatively easy for the state to manage the meetings without the scrutiny of public oversight and media reporting. Certainly, proprietary information and trade secrets need to be protected, but the broad use of executive session privileges erodes public confidence. One result has been the widespread belief that the fix is in. We're of the opinion that many in our communities believe this today. A difficult task for this panel will then be to prove the fix is not in by providing open, verifiable, unbiased analysis in meetings. It would be important to prospective bidders, the region, and the state that bidders not be burdened by unwarranted and excessive documentation demands. An executive summary should be requested for each proposal. In any event, the community should inspect and provide input into the assumptions used in analysis so the outcomes are less likely to be challenged afterwards. It is apparent from the RFP before us that several significant issues warrant comment, clarification, or modification. Tonight's meeting is in advance of the proposers' meeting on the 15th, which is in itself curious. We would request that another public hearing be scheduled, and I have heard tonight that there is at least one scheduled, but we would like to hear that one be scheduled after the participants are identified and again after preliminary concepts are unveiled. And I hope that...
It is, as I indicate, our intention to have another hearing once the proposals are submitted in July.
Thank you. We are concerned that it's unfair to ask bidders to propose plans in the face of unspecified selection criteria, especially the weighting and scoring. How can a bidder properly submit a proposal without regard for the factors that can determine success? If any potential bidder entities, affiliates, or surrogates are going to or have already been promised or given governmental aid, how will the scoring reflect this effect? When will you publicly identify amounts and sources of financial assistance or other considerations? We believe a serious flaw exists in the RFP concerning the town's statutory right of refusal. As written, Preston or Norwich would have to bid on the entire parcel, including land not in their boundaries. Additionally, zoning is not identical for both municipalities. It is therefore critical to separate their interests in the document. Will this be done? Weight should be given to proposals that would strengthen and solidify Eastern Connecticut's tourism cluster. The operating performance of the existing casinos and other area attractions could be negatively impacted with the eventual emergence of competition in nearby states. The implications and importance should be obvious to the region and the state. Weight should be given to bidders who want to work collaboratively with the town and state governments and/or other bidders for the unique transportation opportunities of rail, water, and highway access that this property provides. In closing, the town's Economic Development Commission believes that it is logical for the interests of the state, the towns, the region to be similar. Quality job generation, increases to the state's GDP, and badly needed revenues to the towns and state should be primary considerations. We recognize that most quality of life attributes improve in a strong, vibrant, and diverse economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck Tisbicki, followed by Mike Sinko.
Hi. Chuck Isbicki from Preston, Connecticut. Last name Izbicki. Yeah, I've been a resident of Preston, Connecticut all my life. 3 generations, my grandfather, my father. I'm in the process of building a house in Preston right now. I would like to see more opportunities, like more opportunities for employment other than casino. And I'm not a union worker at all, but I can't see you guys turning your back on 22,000 jobs. I mean, that's just ridiculous, first of all. A good education is very important to me. Have Utopia Studios come in and put in a very fine first-class college, like they've been saying, is a very must thing to do. As far as lowering taxes, you're nuts not to take Utopia because you're going to drop taxes down to at least 50%. So that's all I really got to say. And God bless. And have a good one.
Mike Sinko, followed by, it looks like Roger Wells.
Good evening, I'm Linwood Crary. I'm chairman of the Town of Preston Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm here with Mike Sinko, who's the vice chairman. Mike's going to read a statement tonight that is coming from the Planning and Zoning Commission. It was endorsed by the full Planning and Zoning Commission at our April meeting.
Thank you. The Preston Planning and Zoning Commission appreciates the opportunity to address the Norwich Hospital Recommendation Committee in this public forum. The Planning and Zoning Commission is a publicly elected 7-member panel with 2 alternate members. The basis of the Commission's charter is stated on our zoning regulations. In quotes, the purpose for these regulations are to encourage the most appropriate use of the land throughout our community. With that statement as a guide, in the mid-1990s, the Commission took on the task of developing zoning regulations for the portion of the Norwich State Hospital property located in the town of Preston, which is approximately 400 of the 470 acres. With professional help from our town planner, the Commission spent several months exploring options regarding the best use of the property. It was determined that the main focus of the new zoning district would be commercial use, and, if possible, reuse of property and buildings of the former Norwich State Hospital. The basis for this recommendation was access to the state highways, the rail line, the Thames River, public utilities including water, sewage, and gas systems, as well as being in a travel corridor between the 2 Indian gaming facilities. In addition, 2 overlay zones were delineated within the new district. One was titled the Campus Preservation Overlay, which was designated to promote the rehabilitation and reuse of existing buildings with historical significance. The second, titled Planned Business Overlay Zone, was designated for uses that typically involve the assembly, production, distribution, and/or storage of products. This second zone was for land basically located south of 2A, adjacent, or if you will, by the American Refuge facility. These zoning regulations were created to encourage commercial development and capitalize on the existing assets at the site in anticipation of the state declaring the facility surplus property. After several public hearings, these regulations were approved. At no time, and I repeat, at no time, during the assembly of these regulations or during the public hearing phase was residential housing, whether it be multiple unit or single family, considered to be an appropriate use. And let me remind you that the purpose of our regulations are to encourage the most appropriate use of that land. In crafting these regulations, we balance our needs for grand list diversification and our desire to maintain our rural character. Significant growth of our grand list would generate revenues that could be used to acquire and protect open space in important areas of our community, as well as support our quality of life targets, such as community services, historical, archaeological preservation, and as well as educating our children. Currently, Preston has 2 documents approved by public process. First, the above-mentioned regulations, and secondly, our plan of conservation and development. Both declare commercial enterprise to be the development of choice for the Norwich State Hospital property. This was reiterated in a public survey where an overwhelming number of our residents supported development at the former hospital site. In closing, the Preston Planning and Zoning Commission would like to state that we are encouraged by the step forward by the state of Connecticut, and we look forward to working with any commercial developer selected for this property. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you for coming, Mr. Ryan. I'm a 28-year resident of the town of Preston.
Sir, could you just identify yourself?
My name is Roger Wells, W-E-L-L-S. Everybody's spoken tonight for the unions, with the unions, and have spoken very eloquently. This project, the Norwich State Hospital, I feel that the state of Connecticut has stewardship of this property has been atrocious. It's allowed a developer to come in here, an organization to come in. We paid $500,000 to develop this property, and it has found nobody to develop it. And all of a sudden, it wants to bid on this property. I think, sounds kind of fishy to me, but, I don't know if you people are going to let them do it or not. The other thing is jobs and development. The only thing that's going to bring jobs to this area is a large development. And there's only one development that you people are generally looking at right now that is large enough to support this part of the country. We also have the possibility of a sub-base closure, another loss of a large amount of jobs. So I would hope that you people would take into consideration when it comes down to getting a developer for this part of the land, that you not only think of the residents first, but also our tax base. We're paying high taxes here in Preston, and the reason it is because we're not getting any subsidies that should be coming to us from both sides of us. And this project, Mr. Ryan, that is coming here will give us the subsidies we need that has been talked about for our fire department and our ambulances, so that it doesn't have to come out of the taxpayers every time we turn around for new ambulances and fire trucks to support these two projects on either side of us. And as a taxpayer in the town of Preston, I came here, my taxes in 1976 were $330 for my property. They're over $2,500 now. That's a big increase. If I can have something drop my taxes by 50%, sir, I'm going to go for it. That's the way I want to go. Thank you.
Tim Schultz, followed by Roger Wilson.
Good evening, Mr. Ryan, members of the Norwich Hospital Committee, union members here, officials from the town of Preston, and Preston residents. My name is Tim Schultz, that is S-C-H-U-L-Z, and I'm representing the Board of Finance tonight. The town of Preston, since the building of the former Norwich State Hospital by the state of Connecticut, has been singled out to accept more than its fair share of society's problems. This has caused Preston to be subjected in the past to a sometimes dangerous mental health facility, and more recently, a municipal waste incinerator that no other town or city wanted. It needs to be noted that neither facility has ever paid its fair share of taxes. The former hospital site only began paying approximately 20% of the value since the mid-70s. This amount was further reduced to a value of $13 million by the Office of Policy and Management, resulting in a 75% reduction in pilot payment to the town of Preston. Since then, with the inception of two world-renowned gaming facilities, Preston has been saddled with additional costs. The analysis of these costs by the Preston Board of Selectmen show an approximate $1 million in direct and indirect costs per year. This testimony will demonstrate the following comprehensive loss of monetary values over a wide range of issues forced upon the town of Preston. It is the exact loss of fiscal revenues, along with the associated costs, that forced the town of Preston to seek the highest and best use for the former site. The town of Preston has been cut almost $1.5 million in revenue over the last 5 years from the state of Connecticut. This translates directly into an impact of a $6.5 million increase. Please note, though, that the town of Preston did not go up severely on its taxes initially, but instead was forced to dig deeply into its reserves. This reserve account initially was built up by design by the Preston Board of Finance to soften the blow of the new cost of building a new school. Instead, this money is now going to offset the state decreases in revenue. This reduction has further caused Preston to reduce its unreserved fund balance by almost 50% in the last 4 years alone. No other town in Connecticut suffered a higher loss per capita per person than Preston. A large portion of these cuts are directly related to the devaluation of the former site caused by the state of Connecticut's abdication of responsibilities to properly maintain its buildings and properties as required by law. Our fire department and ambulance service are being stretched beyond its resources. Our volunteers have decreased because of the dramatic increase in the commitment of time to the town. We need a paid fire department yesterday. More police presence has been required to provide adequate safety, further straining our budgets. These cuts over time have forced the Preston Board of Education officials to cut the prison music program, programs for the gifted, and is a direct loss of valuable teachers' aides. It has forced the need to delay necessary purchases and forced the opening of a booster club to raise money for programs and items once paid for by the town. This is another quality of life issue. We also face a new federally unfunded mandate, the No Child Left Behind Act, without the necessary resources and tools caused by the lack of revenue. Because of the preceding factor of high traffic, the dramatic increase in traffic has meant a decline in property values for those along state roads Route 164, Route 2A, and Route 2. This also has meant less revenue for the town of Preston. This traffic costs more money yet because local area residents from Griswold, Norwich, and surrounding communities use our back roads to travel to and from work. This translates directly into higher maintenance, shorter resurfacing times, and more time to pick up the garbage along these roads. Although the former site has not been declared surplus property, it is the Preston Board of Finance contention it should be. A look at the recent articles in the surrounding newspapers show the lack of control at the state level make it surplus. The former site has most of the necessary infrastructure in place already to make this a crown jewel for all of eastern Connecticut, the town of Preston, and the state of Connecticut. The site has potable water, gas, sewer, and electricity available. It has a major interstate highway and can be accessed by rail and water. These conditions make it one of the most unique sites on the whole eastern seaboard, capable of long-term sustainable development. Any proposal that does not provide quality jobs and needs concessions to be viable should not be allowed. Any proposal that does not show the highest and best use for all of this property should also be excluded. It has been brought to our attention that a lease-intensive proposal that does not show the true long-term development goals of any developer could potentially be more dangerous than a larger, properly designed, cohesive plan. This could happen from poor future planning and ill-fitting concepts. We are afraid if the state of Connecticut does not pick the highest and best use for the former Norwich Hospital, we will be forced to continue to piecemeal our budget together, affecting education, roads, and the quality of life. Lower development at this site will mean less jobs for the area and less revenue. Less revenue means higher taxes and more working hours for men and women just to maintain the status quo. This quality of life issue has been identified in the local newspapers as being one of the highest concerns by the state of Connecticut officials. We wish these same officials had worried about those same issues when they were so busy cutting revenue to the town of Preston. I'm almost done. The town of Preston does not have the capability to add cultural programs or services without new revenue. We don't believe asking for this for our residents is too much. Please look at the other cities and towns in Connecticut and note the types of service and cultural programs that they have and Preston would like to have. Remember, more revenue for Preston means less dependence on the state of Connecticut. It also means a diversified tax base, which is beneficial to the region as a whole. A major consideration has to be given to developers who will not exercise any rights to annexation if found legal. And please be aware that a siting of another gaming facility could occur at this location, which would further compound the town of Preston's lack of revenue while selling it with unknown costs. Good land use concepts must be employed, and it's worth knowing that Preston Planning and Zoning Commission regulations do not allow for any type of housing in this area. Most housing has a negative revenue outcome, which has been another revenue drain on the town of Preston. We feel, based on these facts, that any proposal that incorporate housing as part of their proposal be disqualified. Remember that paying jobs and diversified jobs mean more opportunities for all of us and our children. It means better homes built, cars, and more leisure time. What you pick for us to live with tomorrow will show your willingness to help us invest in ourselves. Please don't betray the promise of the American dream. We can only hope that you will not be swayed by the politics of the state and that the decision you make would make this region and the state proud. Last on the statement, we want the Norwich State Hospital Recommendation Committee to realize and recognize that very soon, Groton could be experiencing trying to survive another round of base closures. This will require a complete examination of that entire process and what the loss would mean to the region. It would be an irreprehensible travesty if the Norwich Hospital Recommendation Committee does not keep this as a paramount part of their focus as they deliberate the fate of the former Norwich State Hospital. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Roger Wilson, followed by Bob Cobden.
Roger Wilson, pass.
Bob Cobden. Followed by Regina Keith.
Good evening, Secretary Ryan, Norwich Hospital Recommendation Committee members, the general public, thank you for coming. I have a fairly long statement, and I won't read it all. I'd like to make it available to the committee, to the press, and put it on file at the library for the public to hear. But there's a couple things that I'd like to address. One, we've been at this a long time. We started this as a newly elected Board of Selectmen in 1995. And one of the first things we did is we called Rich Nuclo with OPM and asked to have a meeting with him to discuss the Norwich State Hospital property. At that meeting, Tom Maurer, who was second selectman at the time, and I were told that the governor had directed OPM to sell that property. They were going to sell the property within 60 days. It was going to be sold to an Indian tribe, and they didn't care what the town of Preston thought about it. More recently, we got a call from our attorney, Shipman and Goodman, telling us they no longer could represent us in our representation on this issue because they also represent the state of Connecticut. And that OPM had told them that OPM was going in the opposite direction than the town of Preston. The town of Preston has been consistent from day one that we want an open, fair process to develop this property responsibly. And if that's going in a different direction than OPM, I'd like to know what that direction is. I think our Planning and Zoning, Board of Finance, and Inland Wetlands Committee did a fine job of stating what direction the town would like to see this property done in. It was a very open process that we developed our zoning regulations, our plan of development. I think that's well said. I've been pretty much blocked out of this process, so I'm going to take this opportunity tonight to address several areas in the RFP that I think need to be addressed. First, on March 19th, OPM officially released the RFP to solicit development proposals for the hospital site. And I think there are three major flaws in the RFP. One, there's a lack of commitment on the state to sell or transfer the property. I have concern the way the RFP is written. It makes it difficult and if not impossible for the town to exercise its statutory right to purchase the property. And I think that there's a clear lack of clear and objective proposal rating system. The RFP is clear that the state has no obligation or commitment to sell or transfer this property. On page 4 of the 5 of the RFP, it says, in the event the satisfactory terms cannot be agreed upon, the state reserves the right to reject the selected proposal or master plan. And it goes on to say that the state can terminate the RFP process. The cost for a developer to complete this RFP is substantial. OPM only needs to look at Adrian's Landing. Approximately $11 million of state funds were expended to complete a process very similar to this RFP. How can we expect a developer to expend that kind of funds on an RFP process if there's not some assurance that the property will be sold or transferred? The second issue, the way the RFP is written, I think it potentially eliminates both Norwich's and Preston's ability to exercise their right to purchase the property. I believe that the RP, by requiring developers to submit proposals for the entire site, places the municipalities in a legal bind. State law provides the opportunity for municipalities to purchase only state surplus property located within their municipalities. Neither Norwich nor Preston has the ability to make a proposal for the entire site. Recently, the Norwich Bulletin reported that the city of Norwich was contemplating exercising this right and purchasing the property in Norwich for an industrial park. If that's what Norwich believes is in their best interest, I believe they should be allowed to do so. The RP should be amended to protect our municipality's statutory right and honor the legislative intent of Section 3-14B of the Connecticut General Statutes. The third concern I have is that the RFP lacks a clear and objective rating system. The RFP outlines 4 proposal rating criteria: financial and business plan, economic impact, community impact, quality of life, and historical and archaeological, sales price, and performance guarantee. The RFP doesn't define any of these criteria, nor does it outline the scorecard establishing a weighting system by which proposal will be ranked. A football team knows if they go for a touchdown, they get 6 points. If they kick a field goal, it's 3. In this case, they have no idea if they can potentially submit a successful proposal. The selection of a proposal under the RFP as written has the potential to be subjective, arbitrary, and capricious. In fairness to potential developers and the host municipalities, this serious flaw must be addressed and the RFP amended to establish a clear and objective proposal evaluation system. In conclusion, OPM Undersecretary Michael Cicchetti was reported in the Norwich Bulletin to have stated that the Norwich Hospital Recommendation Committee wants as much input from residents as possible. I believe a show of hands tonight would demonstrate a consensus that this property should be developed in a manner that creates high-paying construction jobs, ongoing career opportunities, and a grand list growth and diversity. Thank you.
Regina Keefe, followed by Jerry Grayback. Regina Keefe. Jerry Grayback? Grabaric, I'm sorry. He did.
The town knows who I am. The town knows who I am. I'm Jerry Grabaric. That's G-R-A-B-A-R-E-K, and I'm a selectman and a lifelong resident of the town of Preston. All right, I have 10 reasons why the town of Preston should not trust OPM in the state of Connecticut regarding quality of life issues with the development of Norwich State Hospital property. Okay, number 10, the closure of the hospital in the first place. There's still a need for such a mental health facility in Eastern Connecticut. All right, number 9. Meeting held in December 1995, where Rich Newclow from OPM told Bob Condon and Tom Mauer the state was going to sell the property to either Indian tribe within 60 days. Number 8, Three Rivers Community College not being cited at the property despite a vote in the Regional Council of Governments. Number 7, the state, in the person of Andy Norton, testifying at a Preston Planning and Zoning public hearing in April 1996, vehemently opposing the rezoning of the property. The land was being rezoned from residential to the design district it is today. This obviously did not comply with the Mohegan plan to put 600 units of housing on that property at the time. Number 6, state OPM lowering the value of the property. Thus, the town and the city of Norwich receive less pilot payment. Number 5, state OPM, reasons for devaluating the property. Failure to upkeep the buildings, thus they weren't worth anything. Number 4, state DPW, whose job it was to maintain the property, ignoring the state statutes. Number 3, meeting the present Board of Selectmen had with the governor, where he tried for 1 hour to persuade us on how great the Mohegan plan was for the property. We didn't think so then, and we don't think so now. All right. Number 2, State DCED dragging his feet and signing a contract with Spalding and Sly to market the property until they were sure of the recession after 9/11 and the corporate mergers would submarine any corporate plan for the property. Number 1, Mark Ryan professing interest in the quality of life in southeastern Connecticut in recent news articles. He's very concerned with one particular proposal that has come forward within the past 10 months. Where has his interest been in the past 10 years? All right. Gentlemen, for all the above stated reasons, I would like to say that with friends like the state of Connecticut and OPM watching out for the quality of life here in southeastern Connecticut, I'd feel much safer if my town of Preston was allowed to protect its own quality of life. Thank you.
Bruce Lynn, followed by Tom Fenton. Bruce Lynn, Tom Fenton.
Hi, my name's Tom Fenton. I'm a IBW member. I'm a member of the Northern Buildings Trades Council. I'm also a 30-year resident of the town of Preston, and I also belong to the Preston Zoning Board of Planning and Zoning, excuse me. A couple things I kind of would like to say is, like Jerry said, it's tough to trust you guys. I mean, one of the things is, they say every town in this area, their planning and zoning and their town officials choose what they want to develop. I hear some of our neighbors say, well, gee, we want what's best for the area and what's best for Preston. I hear the Montville mayor say, you know, it would be too crowded over here if you run the cars down across the Mohegan-Pequot Bridge. But then he approves a $50 million project in his town, and then he talks about another $100, $200 million project in his town. You should let Preston, like every other town in the state of Connecticut, do their own zoning and choose who they want to develop and how it's developed. I also would like to say is, you talk about quality of life in Preston and southeastern Connecticut. When you shut the Norwich State Hospital, you closed the doors and ran everybody up to Norwich. You didn't care then, you certainly don't care now. The town of Preston's been jammed things from the state for a long time. They said the town of Preston didn't want the trash burner. Well, you're going to get it. We don't care. That's where it's going. Now the town of Preston wants something. You don't care, and you're going to do what you want. I mean, it's really not right the way we've been treated as a town. Save 4,000 people off of the state unemployment funds, that would generate another $44 million. So you're talking $54 million while you guys are dragging your feet when the state of Connecticut's running in a deficit. That's crazy. That's crazy. You're talking about people that want to work. These guys aren't out of work because of they want to be there. They're out of there because of your failed policies and a lot of the failed policies in the state. So when you got a chance to give them a break, give them a break. And the only other thing I got to say, and this is my last thing, is I would have to say that if you approve that any project that involves housing on the Norwich State property, I would have to say, who's putting something in your back pocket? Because the town of Preston is never going to allow housing there, and the only reason you would approve something that allows housing there is to delay the damn development of the property. And the only people that make out by the delay of the development of the property are the people that are paying people nothing and lousy wages. I'm going to tell you something. If you're all worried about the Mohegan Sun and where they're going to get employees if this goes through, I'll tell you just a little story. I used to think that these people would be great for the regions, the two casinos, they create jobs, they create things. My mother got cancer. She got operated on. 2 days later, her boss comes in from the Mohegan Sun and says, I said, gee, this is nice, the guy's coming to see her. He says, look, Fel, you better either quit or we're going to fire you because you're going to miss too many days of work. That's the people you're worried about. Worry about somebody else.
Thomas Keefe, followed by Kent Borner. Thomas Keefe. Kent Borner.
My name is Kent Borner. I'm the chairman of the Inland Wetlands Commission and the Conservation Commission in Preston. As in many small towns, especially in eastern Connecticut, we have the same group of people fulfilling both capacities. A little feedback here. Hey, there you go. Along with the Preston Zoning Commission, the Conservation Commission contributed to the Preston Plan of Conservation and Development. A lot of time, effort, and citizen involvement was dedicated to producing the blueprint for our town's future. We clearly, as a community, insist on maintaining our rural character and recognize that to accomplish that, we must address those few areas in town suitable for generating positive net tax revenues required to attain the goal and ensure the reason we all decided to live here. The hospital property, specifically the 400 acres in Preston, is our crown jewel. It's our golden egg. If properly developed, it will enable us in helping preserve our way of life and conserving the rest of our rural town. The Wetlands Commission has been very concerned about the state's continued neglect of the crown jewel for the past 10 years, including deteriorating structures with hazardous materials, contaminated soils, and most recently, the discovery of millions of gallons of water gushing into the ground on a daily basis. This leak may have been a cash windfall for our neighbor Norwich selling the water, but has cost state taxpayers millions of dollars and may have caused unknown damage to the groundwater and river with the flushing of these contaminants through the excessively draining soils identified by the USDA as Merrimack and Hinckley soils at this site. The state must follow Preston's ordinance and mandate to all potential developers that environmental cleanup and remediation for the total 400 acres in Preston must be addressed before any portion of the parcel receives that first ceremonial shovel, and that the work be supervised and approved by the DEP or the EPA before the selected developer can begin their project. All development on this site in Preston will have to submit their plans and the appropriate applications to the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission for approval before any work can start. Our commission takes negative impact concerns very seriously and will perform our duties accordingly. Thank you.
It looks like Joseph Majacher, M-A-J-C-H-E-R. Major. Senator Kathy Cook, followed by Todd Dexter.
Good evening, Mr. Secretary and members. Now you know why I'm so proud to represent southeastern Connecticut. I'm in my 12th year as state senator from Groton, Stonington, North Stonington, Preston, Griswold, Voluntown, Plainfield, and Sterling. This is my third group that has looked at how to reuse Norwich Hospital. It's taken us many years to take a look at what we ought to do here. I came to listen tonight, and I hope that you will listen as well, because the people of this region have told the state many times what they want to do with the former Norwich State Hospital property. And I'm going to make one last pitch. Isn't it a little ironic that one of the proposed developers wants to build a private for-profit college there when we ought to be putting Three Rivers Community College there? You haven't put a shovel in the ground yet at Thames Valley. And we ought to be looking at setting aside 10% of that land for a community college for the future, for the 21st century, to build and develop those jobs for the future, to inoculate us against outsourcing, to help us provide the jobs for the future. There is no growth on the postage stamp site that you've chosen. We need to have it on a bigger site. We have plenty of room at the Norwich State Hospital, and I'm going to make one last ditch plea that you take a look at that, because we ought to be thinking far ahead, not just a little ahead. And this is a state piece of property that can combine with the other developments, whatever they may be, when the RFPs come back. Eastern Connecticut has had some hard times. We were the most defense-dependent county in the nation when we won the Cold War and EB had 10,000 jobs that were lost. We fed our families on a pedestal table here, and the only pedestal holding up the table, the kitchen table that fed our families, was defense spending. It has taken us the 12 years of my term so far to diversify our economy so that the kitchen table that feeds our families is, yes, one leg supported by defense, and the BRAC process, the subbase, and the regrowth of Electric Boat have all been part of that. Another leg that supports our families is tourism. And the casinos came at a time, they bought us time to do the planning we needed to do, because families didn't lose their homes. They weren't the jobs we wanted, but at least they didn't lose their homes. And now we have an obligation to make sure tourism is the right kind of forward-thinking economic development for us. A third leg is biochemical and pharmaceutical development, and those have provided good, well-paying jobs for us. And the fourth one is going to be, and is emerging, as ocean technology and ocean engineering. 4 strong legs of a table that's going to feed our families for a long time in the future. So when you look at proposals, if tourism is going to be one of the proposals that you will look at carefully, make sure that it's a strategic plan, that it fits into the tourism part of what southeastern Connecticut is about, that it complements all the other tourism venues we have, that it doesn't hurt other tourism venues. When Williamsburg in Virginia, its colonial tourism attraction, was fumbling, Busch Gardens came along and helped them, because it was a family entertainment venue that provided an additional day or 2 of visits and expanded the tourism economy of Williamsburg, Virginia. But when Disney World came along, it hurt Cypress Gardens and Weeki Wachee and some of the other tourism venues that were part of Central Florida. We can learn from both of those examples and plan well so that as we bring in what I believe is an appropriate family attraction for our region, we do it right and we make sure that it complements all of that new diversified economy that's the southeastern Connecticut economy. The third thing I want to convey to you is we've got to keep the promise. Mark, you know how we held for that budget. And we said, you have got to have the mental health services in this community when you close that hospital. There is nothing that I fight harder for than to make sure that people with disabilities, whether they're mental health or mental retardation, get the services they need in our communities. They belong with us, they are our friends, they are our family, they are our neighbors. Don't shove them away, and don't make them live homeless or in our jails. We can provide better for them, and that has to be part of the equation when you and I go back to Hartford and develop a new budget. And lastly, I'll tell you that I trust the town of Preston. They know what they want, but they also work well with the region. They do know how things need to fit together. They know that there's a regional transportation issue that has to be accomplished. And I believe that citizens of the town of Preston will work together with all the other communities to make sure that we come up with the right answer. This is the last, I hope, time that we're going to have a committee to look at the reuse of the Norwich Hospital, because this is the one that's going to be successful. This is the one that's going to do what we need it to do. And I thank you all for coming here in this wonderful new school, and thank you for the citizens of Preston for hosting this meeting. And Mark, we'll talk more. Thank you.